Hi, everybody. I'm really excited this week. I have got another brilliant guest. I've got Michael Dent on the podcast, and you will probably know him because he is the founder of Property Data. Hi, Michael.
Hi, Natasha. Happy to be here.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you. And also, I must say as well, also the co-founder of What Three Words, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But to start off with, I'm always really intrigued by business owners' journeys. So can you give me an overview? How did you get to creating property data? What is your background?
Yeah, okay, sure. So property data is about 6 years old now, 6 years and 1 month, I think. It was April 2017 that I started it. My background was software, not property. So that was kind of the angle that I came at it from. I'd spent about 6 years before property data running a software development agency. So we built software for all sorts of big companies, Samsung and companies like that. But I was looking to create a kind of product that would actually be some intellectual property that we could own. And the idea struck me when I was watching a friend who was doing his kind of first buy-to-let investment, and he was a management consultant, so he was the kind of guy who liked to be quite rigorous about the way he thought about this kind of stuff. And I watched him, and he was basically creating a spreadsheet of comparables for different properties. He'd found this buy-to-let that he thought might be a good one, so he's making a spreadsheet of nearby properties in the area and kind of looking at the floor plan to get the square footage, and then doing a formula in Excel to work out the price per square foot. And I watched him doing this, and I just thought, with my software hat on, this is a bit mental, really, because what if he types one number wrong, and then it makes the whole calculation is wrong, the data's wrong, and then he makes a bad investment, loses tens of thousands of pounds. So I thought there must be a better way of doing that. And that was the very original idea for property data, was can we just create a little piece of software that sucks in comparables from portals and then makes it really easy to do an analysis, basically a price comparable analysis. So that was the first version, and here we are 6 years later, and it's a complicated piece of software that does all sorts of things much more than that original purpose.
Yeah, it's an incredible software. So where did you start? I'm always intrigued to this. Where did you get the data from to start off with, and how has that changed over the years?
Yeah, so I mean, to start with, as I say, we were kind of scanning the portals and looking for what was going on in there in terms of listings coming to the market, prices of those, how long they stayed on the market, and so on. Pretty quickly, we added in obviously the land registry data, which is all the transactions that are happening. And those were probably the two core data sets originally. And now we've got, I don't know, 25, 30 different data sets, all sorts of different data from weird, obscure government departments, companies that we buy data from. So it's massively grown in terms of the amount of data that we have on the system. But funnily enough, although this is called property data, I don't think of it really as a data company. I think of it as a software company. So what I mean by that is the real value add that we bring isn't the data. We have lots of really good data, but the value add is bringing all that in one place, keeping it up to date, cleaning it up, and then making a piece of software that makes it hopefully relatively intuitive, self-explanatory for people to kind of analyze that and then use it to help make their decisions. So we're a software company, not a data company.
Yeah, because you're using data from elsewhere. So as it's grown, so you've added so many different features. One of the features that we really love in-house is the valuation tool, because we can download the valuation, we can then download all the comps from the bottom, and all the sale comps, rental comps, and we tend to put that into our deal analysis. When we've got all the comparables from commercial property in the residential world, we put it together so that we can start analyzing our deals. I'm really intrigued, what did it look like when you first started? Because I have been using property data probably since 2020, so I didn't see it in 2017.
Yeah, it was really simple. It was a kind of a much simpler version of what it is now. I mean, if I can tell you, we built, after kind of having that light bulb moment, watching my friend, we built an MVP, as they call it in software, which is a minimum viable product. So like the simplest possible interpretation of the idea. And this is absolutely the way I think to build, a tech product. in 3 weeks. So that's all it took to build that first version, 3 weeks. And, so if ever people are setting out to make a piece of software and they get someone says, oh, we can do that in 6 months or 8 months or 12 months, it's too complicated. You've got to strip it back. So we built that first version in 3 weeks. And all it did was that one thing of, suck in data from the portals, analyze it, and give a quick kind of comparables price analysis. But that's useful in and of itself. That's a useful function. We then launched that to the market, did a few press releases, got invited to take a cheap stand at the Property Investor Show in East London, and just started demoing this and getting people to use it. And people liked it. People saw the value of it, and people were signing up from month one. So we had subscribers straight away. And then what was great is, as well as money coming in, we had people saying, well, it's great, but could it do this, or can it also do this? And so we had our subscribers have always been, as well as providing the income to the business, a kind of feature generation, or focus group sort of machine that just generates ideas. And that's how the business has developed ever since, is just listening to what people want and building it, basically.
How do you collect that feedback from users? Do you email everybody, or is there a place on your website? How did you start doing that?
Yeah, we just encourage people to, so we do run the business in quite a particular way. It is a low-cost product, and that's another thing that we did is there were other products out there that do vaguely similar things. There's Land Insight is a well-known one, and there's a company called Realize, but these are expensive products. I mean, they're often £500 a month or something like that, and that's just out of reach of most small investors and developers. And
right.
We were really keen to make something that was kind of democratic, affordable, starting at 15, 20 quid a month, so that small investors and developers could use it. So with that in mind, we do run the business in a particular way, which is to say that there's no phone line. You can't ring someone up and speak to a sort of sales team or a customer support team, because that doesn't work at those price points. But what we do is really, really good email service. We've always done this, basically 7 days a week, pretty much 365 days a year. People can email in, they'll get a quick, sensible response. And so that's how we've always operated. And that's how we get these ideas. Basically, we just encourage people either do it of their own volition, because they have an idea and they think, it'd be great to just communicate that. Or, various times you might get an automated email that goes out when you're, 2 months into your subscription that says, how's it going? If you've got any ideas, send it in. So we're sort of soliciting feedback all the time. And actually, especially once people realize, sometimes people send something in that's such a good idea and it's actually only a few hours work, we'll build it same day as it gets sent in. So when people realize it's all part of that kind of lean and kind of light on our feet. I mean, I have to say we don't probably do that quite as much now as we did in the early years, but still, when people send stuff in, it nearly always eventually gets built, especially if enough people request the same thing. And we always note who sent it in and send an email to them saying this is now out there. And once people realize that, they're even more enthusiastic, because I think people send it in thinking, oh, well, this will never get built, but we'll just send it in on the hope. And we realize that actually that we do build stuff that people suggest, that just makes people even more enthusiastic to send stuff in.
What's your most used tool on the site?
That's a really good question. I mean, probably the single, it's a really broad tool. It's got loads of stuff in there. And what I love about it is that very few people are using all of the tools, but there are completely different types of users. So some people are only using the valuation. Some people are only using the local data tool. Other people are only using the sourcing tools. And then there are obviously people who are using most of it. But the single most used tool, the one we get the most sort of number of searches on, is actually the plot map tool, which is a sort of due diligence tool where people stick in a postcode and you get high res maps of buildings, boundaries. You can click on a property, see all the data, as much data as we can gather in terms of internal area, council tax band, number of habitable rooms, energy efficiency, who type of ownership, basically every piece of data we can marshal on a piece of property in there. And that is probably the single most used tool. So people using it at that due diligence part of the sort of transaction process. I mean, we've tried to split the tools on the website into this three-phase approach. There's a research, source, and what we call evaluate or due diligence. So it's the 3 steps basically of buying a property. Is first you're researching areas, then you're sourcing specific opportunities, and then in that final phase you're doing your due diligence on an opportunity that you found. So people are using it in that flow, but perhaps it is the due diligence tools like the plot map that see the most interest.
Was that what so you launched with getting all the comparable evidence? Was that very soon afterwards?
Well, exactly. So the comparables bit, it really the local data tool, which is where you draw an area and you get all the data and the analytics that we have about that area. That was the original product. That's just now part of the research section. And I mean, plot map that I just described didn't exist for at least two and a half years after the beginning of the business. And now it's the most popular part of the site. So that's the amazing thing, is that the product is so much more, complex and has so many more features than it used to. And you have these whole features that now we can't imagine how was property data without the plot map. But it just grows and evolves, and that's been the fun thing to kind of work on over the last 6 years.
How do you and this is actually, I'm going to start first by asking about your sourcing. How do you find the letter dropping? How many people are using that? And because there's a lot on social media at the moment with people saying that letter dropping isn't working, but you guys have a service for that. How does it work?
Yeah, it's interesting you should mention that. So again, that's something that is really relatively recent. I think it's maybe around a year ago, or possibly as much as 18 months ago, that we launched that. But in the context of 6 years of running the business, it's only in the last year and a half that we've had that tool. The rollout of that has been a really interesting one for us, just because it was a slow burn. We thought this might be something that people use. We never fully know, but definitely a few people had suggested that. That was one of the bigger. It was a bigger thing to build, so we kind of put it off, and then eventually we did it. And in the first few months, it got a little bit of use. People sending some letters here and there. A couple of hundred letters, whatever. But not as much perhaps as we'd hoped. And then it's just slowly started to, it's a little bit of up and down, but build each month. And now it's probably quadrupled, at least in the last 4 or 5 months, the number of letters people are sending, and it's just growing every month. So I don't know if it just took people a while to discover it, or if generally the business as a whole was a little bit slower in Q3, Q4 last year as a result, I think, of the whole just kind of, Liz Truss government, interest rates going up, uncertainty. There was a lot of uncertainty about which maybe put off a lot of people. So as across the board, we slowed down a little bit in Q3 and Q4 of 2022, and then now Q1 this year, and with all months this year since January, we've had really, really strong kind of growth and engagement on the site. So it may be to some extent it's just part of that trend, but also I think people took a while to discover it, and then people who were already using it are still using it, but new people are coming in and using it. So we're really seeing building momentum in terms of the number of letters sent. It's quite hard to know, of course, exactly. I mean, I think it's a proven technique, but it requires volume, and maybe sometimes people are unrealistic about the volume. They think they're going to send a campaign of 60 letters and going to have some fantastic result. Whereas the truth is, the way letter sending works, and to my mind has always worked, is it's a volume game. So you need to be sending hundreds and hundreds of letters. The response rate is low, the success rate is low, but if you send enough letters, you will get conversions, by which I mean find leads that turn into property purchases. And we know anecdotally from users writing in that they've bought properties through sending letters through the letter sending system on property data. But it's, without speaking to everyone who's using it and trying to be really sort of scientific about it, it's hard to say, well, it's any specific percentage or anything like that. But it does work if you send the right volume, I think.
Has anybody come back with any stats? How many letters do they send to get one lead? Has anybody ever told you that?
I think we don't know. We don't know that. I mean, I think roughly, I think we've always worked on the basis, and we kind of say to people they ask that the hit rate is, that the conversion rate from a letter to a lead, i.e. someone actually responding and saying they're interested, is, I mean, certainly under 5%, somewhere in the 1 to 5% region, and it's quite a large band, but that's about right. So I think, for every 100 letters you send, you're going to get a couple of leads, perhaps 1 or 2. So that's why it's a volume game. You need to send 500 letters to get 5 to 10 leads that then may turn into one property transaction. But actually, 500 letters is sort of £400, the cost of sending those letters. In comparison with, if that's going to enable you to shave off even a couple of percentage points off what you pay for a property, because off market, there's no agent involved, actually the ROI on that, the return on investment is very good. So I think it's perhaps also one of those things where some less experienced property investors earlier in their kind of journey are a bit, they don't want to shell out necessarily 400 quid on sending letters, but actually the more confident, more experienced property investors who are sort of very serious about it and willing to put the money in, they know that they're gonna get a return on that by hopefully getting a really good deal.
So how does the process work? You pay to send out letters, and who sends the letter?
So yeah, I'll just talk you through how it works
Yeah,
from start to finish on our. So it's within that second stage of our 3-phase process, the sourcing phase, we've kind of got on-market sourcing tools, and then we've got off-market sourcing tools. So the letter sending is part of our off-market sourcing. So we have a database of all properties in England and Wales. Every single house, flat, building, whatever that exists in England and Wales is in our database. So people select an area, they select their target area, and then they apply a range of filters. So I'm looking for properties of this type, estimated valuation, more than this, less than this, whatever. Last hasn't sold for 10 years. Another popular one is energy score. You might be looking for low energy score because that then it's not lettable under the new laws, and you want to buy it and refurb it and retrofit it so it does meet the regs or whatever it is. So there's different strategies that people might be pursuing, but you use data that we provide to filter out properties, filter that list down to properties that match your criteria. And then you create a template, a letter template, basically, that says, hi, I'm interested in buying your property. I'm sourcing property in your area, and this matches my criteria. We generate that letter automatically. It has a little nice map of the boundary of their property, which is something that helps the conversion because it shows that you're kind of serious. And we do, it's all kind of zero effort. You just press go. We charge you 80p per letter, so that's that £400 for 500 letters or whatever, and then off they go. They all go off, no effort required, to these people's letterboxes. In a way, wonderfully old-fashioned, but there's actually, I think there's something quite cool about a piece of software triggering something in the real world, i.e. a letter dropping into people's letterboxes. And then hopefully you get the responses as we've talked about with the conversion rate. So it's pretty easy and straightforward. I mean, from scratch, you could sit down 10 minutes later, you've sent off a couple of hundred letters.
It's amazing. And how long does it take from you pushing send to actually the letters being put in the post?
Yeah, I mean, they go in the post, I think within 24 hours, and then I think it's Royal Mail second class. So realistically, you might say 3 days, probably 3 or 4 days from clicking send to them actually landing in people's doormats.
Amazing. How have you seen the market change over the last couple of months? How do you track it? Because are you really in the property industry, or are you just in the software creation business? How do you play in the market?
Yeah, it's a good question. We had a bit of a kind of light bulb moment when we made a chart that showed transactions per month in the property market in the UK or in England, and sign-ups on property data, and they're actually correlated pretty closely because property data is its biggest single purpose that it's useful for is as a tool to help people buying residential property. It's also useful for rent revaluations, various other things that property investors might be doing, but its sort of number one use is for purchasing property. So yeah, it turns out there's this big correlation here with a bit of a lag, because people tend to be purchasing property data, a few months before the transaction goes through, and they're doing their research and so on. So the way we kind of the way we take the temperature on the market really is number of signups to property data, new signups, but also our what's called in the software subscription world churn. So there's people cancelling their subscriptions, or negative churn, which is people reactivating their subscriptions. So we've been going for 6 years, so we have a whole list of people who they used it a year ago, then they cancelled it, they haven't been for 12 months, but on any given month, a percentage of those people we haven't seen for 12 months are going to come back and reactivate their account. So the rate at which people are signing up, cancelling their account, reactivating their account, all feeds into giving us a sort of picture of the market. And that really is, for us, you know, what I said to you a couple of minutes ago, which is to say Q3 and Q4, I think there was a lot of uncertainty out there. But seemingly this year, there's, you know, despite everything that's still going on macroeconomically, there seems to be, you know, we've been really, really pleased with the kind of performance of our business and the level of interest in property data this year. So it feels like, funnily enough, always strong in January, our business, because I think people, it's that sort of, it's almost a New Year's resolution, you know,
Right.
people, you know, go home, spend Christmas and New Year's with their family, and they're thinking, you know, I've got, this year is the year I'm going to get into property and become serious about my property investment. So we always have a good January, but that's just continued this year, right the way through to you know, to now. And so yeah, for whatever reason, I feel, I get the sense that, you know, this optimism is slowly returning, and people are thinking, you know, whatever the situation is, you know, we can still make money out of property. And of course, the other thing, you look at interest rates, and interest rates shot up on all mortgages, you know, way ahead of the base rate, actually, again in Q3, Q4 last year, because there was just so much uncertainty. And then they peaked and they've been coming down. So even though the base rate's going up, mortgage interest rates have been coming down for the last 3, 4, 5 months. I think now actually they are just leveling off and perhaps ticking up again, but that's but the mortgage rates coming down is another thing that has just, yeah, encourages people to get back into the market. So, you know, I don't want to be overconfident about it. You know, it's clearly still not a totally normal time. I don't know if there is any normal times anymore, but it's not a totally normal time. But equally, we've moved beyond the kind of total panic and uncertainty, I think.
I'd agree. Everybody's sat now and thinking, we know what market we're in. We kind of know what we're dealing with. So let's go back out and invest. So that then brings me on to the fact that obviously you're in the property business, but actually you are investing in businesses because you have property data, and then you also have What 3 Words. And I'd love to dive into the difference in businesses and what 3 Words and what has made you pivot into that at the same time as doing property data. How does that all work together for you?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's fun to talk about both because they're really, really different types of businesses. In terms of the chronology, it was actually What 3 Words first, because What 3 Words is an old business now. It's 2013 that we started that, so it's 10 years old this year. So that's 4 years before I started property data. So, but they're totally different businesses. So property data, like I said, you know, is this kind of built this MVP in 3 weeks, launched it in 2017, grown organically since then, subscribers signing up, growing the business. So it's grown organically with no outside investment. And, you know, it's still a relatively small business in terms of, it doesn't have an army of people, you know, looking after it or whatever. It's kind of quite a lean business. What 3 Words is just it's the sort of, you know, it's like choosing to be a premiership footballer for your you know, for your career. It's a sort of big, it's a moonshot, it's a big idea, and I can say, it wasn't my idea, but the 4 of us started it basically, and I was really the 4th of 4. I was the tech guy who joined the team, the founding team, kind of at the end to kind of round off that founding team and help with the tech. So it's an idea that needs a lot of money. So over the years, What 3 Words has kept raising money, bigger team. I think now it's 130, 150 people who work there. The business has raised in total, maybe, I mean, certainly 80 to 100 million pounds, maybe a bit more. So a lot of money's been raised. You know, a lot of money's been spent on advertising, kind of raising awareness, and it's still the same like any business. You're building that momentum, growing and growing. And What 3 Words now at 10 years of old is I think certainly a household name in the UK. Most people in the UK, you know, certainly more than half of people in the UK have heard it. Lots of people are using it. In other countries, other markets, maybe a little bit behind that, depends on the market. Funnily enough, in Mongolia, it's fantastically popular because they don't have a very good addressing system. They're still a bit nomadic sometimes. So, you know, different countries, different kind of rates of adoption. But it's just been a completely kind of different business to property data to be involved with, in that, rather than being kind of thin and light and organic growth like property data, it's been more of the classic thing that you hear about, which is raise loads of money, try and grow quickly, spend lots of money, and yeah, try and grow like that. So two completely different businesses. I should say I'm not involved with What Three Words on a day-to-day basis anymore. I was kind of the CTO and the tech guy for the first 2 or 3 years. And once they needed, there's now a tech team of 10, 15 people. So that, that's, I wouldn't be able to do that and property data at the same time. So I had always said, once you need a full-time kind of tech team, I'll stand back. So at this stage, I'm just a kind of shareholder, watching from the sidelines with everyone else, and hoping that one day maybe, Google might buy it and might get a check. But it's definitely, it's something people, the one thing I always say is, if I sit next to someone at a dinner party and they say, what's your job? And I say, it's property market data and analytics, they're asleep by the time I finish the sentence. But if I say, I was involved with something called What Three Words, usually people's eyes light up. They want to talk about it. People have strong opinions on it. Either they think it's brilliant, or plenty of people think it's the worst idea ever. So, there's sort of like people usually have an opinion on it. They find it interesting. They want to talk about it. So in that regard, it's kind of the more interesting of the two businesses anyway.
Can you, for anybody listening who doesn't know what 3 words are, can you?
Yeah, I should have explained that at the beginning. So it's an addressing system where the world has been divided into 57 trillion squares, all of which have been given. So they're 3 by 3 meter squares, so very precise, and they've all been given an automatically generated address, which is 3 words. So yeah, it might be table, house, light, and those 3 words are fixed; they don't change. It's in 50 different languages or something at this stage. So French people can use it in French, German people can use it in German, Mongolian people indeed can use it in Mongolian. So people can use it in their native language. And the uses are everything from sort of emergency services, logistics, deliveries, navigation in cars, massive range of uses. In fact, one of the funnest things about it has just been being surprised at the sheer range and array of creative uses that people have kind of come up with it. You could get a picnic delivered to you in the middle of Hyde Park in London by a drone, if you just give the 3-word address or whatever it is. So but it's an addressing system. Fundamentally, it's more accurate than a postcode, and gives you more options. Most people's house would have 20 different combinations to choose from. So you could, in theory, say, deliver the package to the front door or the back door. It's a different address. So yeah, that's what it is.
Brilliant. And so from running the 2 businesses, what have you learned? What's the biggest learning curve you've had about running a business?
Well, look, I mean, I think from my perspective, although it was certainly fun to be involved with the kind of big money raising, fundraising of What Three Words and the sort of big ambition. I think from my perspective, I've preferred and ultimately found it better to do the approach of the kind of small, lean business that has customers in day one, subscription money coming in, and growing it organically. Because what that means is you get to keep control of your business. The trouble is, once you invite in, if you're raising money, constantly raising money, inviting in big kind of venture capitalists, outside investors, inevitably your shareholding in the business gets diluted down, and you end up with lots of investors involved, and that can be a very beneficial and powerful thing. And you have this big perhaps pool of investors in your company to draw on in terms of expertise and ideas and introductions. So it can be a very powerful thing. But equally, you find that you do basically lose control of your company to some extent, and everything that you want to do, you have to run by the investors and so on. So I think I have personally preferred the approach of building something kind of streamlined, nimble, get it out there, get the customers on it, and use that revenue and that income to build the business in an organic way. That means that you don't need the outside money, and you keep control of the business. But I think they're both, of course, valid approaches. It's just, yeah, it's a bit like, yeah, I don't know if starting a business like What Three Words that needs huge amount of money is like gambling and trying to be a Premiership footballer, then starting property data is like a much more conventional career. I don't know, it's just like being a plumber or something. You know, it's not as exciting. It's not as might not make for as good dinner party conversation, but ultimately, if you're making something useful and you work hard at it and you know work on it for multiple years, you will build a user base and people will come to you and grow it. And it's just a sort of more reliable way, I think, of you know, creating a business.
Amazing. So, Michael, final question. Where should people go to find out more about property data? And do you have social media? How do people find all of this? I mean, most people who are listening to this should know what property data is anyway. If you don't, I don't know why you don't, but go for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's propertydata.co.uk, very simple. So you can go to the website, you can Google it, and we should be hopefully fairly up there if the Google guys are doing their job properly. And, you know, funnily enough, a bit contrarian, the business doesn't have any social media. The business has never been on any kind of social media. And I know some people, I can see your jaw hitting the floor, and that is the usual reaction to that. Sometimes I am just a bit of a contrarian. I don't know. I'm not personally a massive fan of social media. I'm not on it myself, and the business isn't on it. And it doesn't seem to have done us any harm. You know, the business has grown well, word of mouth, and so on. So we're not. You won't basically find us. We do a bit of advertising on social media, I should say. So if you're on your Facebook and you suddenly see our ads following you because you've been to our website, you know, that's why. So we do pay for a bit of advertising, but we don't have accounts where we sort of, you know, post cute little photos of the office dog or whatever it is. So really, you've got to find us by going to the website. But as I mentioned earlier, you know, we're responsive on emails as well. So people do want to have that kind of interaction with us. They need only find the, you know, support@propertydata.co.uk email address, fire off an email with whatever comes into their head, preferably relevant to property, and you know, we'll be back with an intelligent response, you know, relatively quickly. So that's the way that people can interact with us.
Brilliant. Michael, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you, Natasha. It's been a pleasure.